Before time moved, before breath filled lungs, the heavens shimmered with stillness, a canvas untouched. At the highest peak of the celestial realm sat Olajumar, supreme, unknowable, the breath behind all things. The cosmos bowed to his silence. The stars waited for his word. And on this day he spoke. "The earth is bare," he said, voice rippling through existence. "It is time." The court of the Orishas trembled with anticipation. Winds hushed. Fire dimmed. Water stilled. Then Olajumair turned his gaze to Obatala, robed in white, eyes calm as a sleeping ocean. "You, Obatala, are the hand I trust. Go, shape the first beings from the earth's clay, mold them with care. Breathe into them the essence of life." Obatala bowed low, a flicker of humility in his prideful heart. "I accept, Great One." The divine court erupted in praise, all except one. In the far shadows of the assembly stood Ajaguna, a lesser Orisha known for his ambition. His eyes gleamed not with joy, but with envy. Why him? Why not me? He clenched his jaw as Obatala was handed the sacred satchel, filled with the tools of creation. Silver carving rods, divine dust, the whisper of spirit. And at the bottom of the satchel, tucked in burlap and silence, a small sealed gourd no one had noticed before. Obatala did not see Ajaguna's smirk in the corner of the chamber. He did not hear the whisper, "Let's see how pure the god of purity truly is." As Obatala descended the celestial ladder into the empty world below, a wind picked up across the divine court. Not warm, not cold, but curious. And so it began. A god on a mission, a jealous rival in the wings, a sealed temptation waiting to be opened. The earth awaited its first breath, but so did fate and folly. The sky opened like a scroll, and from the realm of the divine descended Obatala, the Orisha robed in white light, his footsteps falling gently upon the formless earth. There was nothing yet. No trees, no rivers, no sky songs, just a stretch of red, waiting clay and silent dust. The stillness was so complete it felt like the world itself was holding its breath. Obatala stepped forward. He unfastened the sacred satchel given by Olajumar, and one by one, he drew out the tools of creation. A silver staff, humming with the pulse of destiny. Full. A small pouch of divine breath bound in sacred thread. The book of form, whose pages were blank, waiting to be written with hands, not ink. A vial of essence containing the spark of spirit, glowing faintly like starlight caught in glass. He knelt. He pressed his fingers into the earth, feeling its cool pliability. And as he whispered blessings into the soil, the clay softened, ready to be shaped. But then, from the bottom of the satchel, wrapped in worn linen, something unexpected rolled into his palm. A gourd sealed with wax, faintly sloshing inside. Obatala paused. "I did not ask for this." The gourd bore no markings of the divine, no blessing seal, no light. Only the faint scent of ferment and fruit. He stared at it for a long moment. A gift, he wondered, or a mistake, or something worse. Still, he placed it beside the others, away from the tools of creation. For now. As the sun slowly rose, the first sun called into being by his presence. Obatala began his holy labor. With careful hands, he shaped the first forms. Heads bowed in reverence, arms outstretched toward the heavens, torsos balanced like dancers between sky and earth. He worked for hours, days. Time had no meaning here, only the rhythm of making and the ache of divine focus. But as the days passed, a strange weariness crept in. The silence grew louder, the loneliness gnawed, and beside him, that sealed gourd, so small, so simple, seemed to whisper louder with each breath of wind. He looked at it once more. Just a sip? To clear the dust from my throat? His fingers brushed the wax seal. The clay remained unshaped. The gourd remained unopened. For now. The forbidden sip for the air was dry, crackling with anticipation. The earth, still young, waited to be filled with life. And Obatala, the noble sculptor of souls, pressed on. His hands, once steady, had grown tired. His divine energy flickered, stretched thin by the loneliness of creation. Each clay figure he shaped demanded not just form, but intention, care, divine focus. And Obatala, the god of purity and balance, gave all of it until there was nothing left but dust on his tongue and a temptation beside his tools. The gourd, sealed, still, whispering promises in the silence. At first he resisted. I am a god. I need no comforts of the flesh. I am beyond indulgence. But earth was not heaven. Its silence was deeper, its gravity heavier. Even gods could grow weary here. One day, or was it night, Obatala could no longer tell. Time had begun to blur. And so did his judgment. His hands, smeared with clay, trembled as he reached for the gourd. He broke the wax seal with a hesitant thumb, the scent of fermented palm fruit curling into the air like a serpent's hiss. He lifted it to his lips. Just one sip. Warmth, sweetness, power. He exhaled, and for the first time in days, smiled. The silence faded. The loneliness dulled. The clay in his hands felt light again. Just one more, he whispered. One sip became two, two became many, and still he molded. But now, the forms began to change. The symmetry slipped. A spine curved the wrong way. A hand too large, a leg too short, a face molded with one eye too low. Still, Obatala kept shaping, convinced he was improving, feeling bold, feeling free. But freedom, when mixed with forgetfulness, is a dangerous thing. By the time the gourd lay empty beside him, dozens of humans stood around Obatala, drying in the sun, each bearing the unseen tremor of his drunken hand. Some were twisted. Some were small. Others still seemed to smile, unknowingly crooked, unknowingly divine. The god slumped beside his imperfect creations, the clay drying on his palms like guilt. And then he slept. Not from peace, but from shame he did not yet understand. The earth remained quiet, but it was no longer empty, and nothing would ever be the same. The earth was still. The sun rose slowly, casting golden light across the clay figures scattered like dreams half remembered. Dew clung to their skin, breath stirred in their lungs, and life, for the first time, opened its eyes. Obatala awoke. His head throbbed with a strange weight. His divine senses, once sharp as the edge of a blade, were now dulled, fogged with the memory of sweetness and the bitter aftertaste of indulgence. He sat up slowly. The gourd beside him, empty, tipped on its side, its last drop soaked into the dirt. Then he saw them, the humans, dozens, standing, breathing, moving. But something was wrong. One leaned heavily to the left, his spine curved like a twisted root. Another had legs of uneven length, walking in a lopsided rhythm. A third had hands that trembled even while still. Their faces bore unique lines, some with eyes that wandered, some with features misshapen by invisible winds. Obatala rose in a daze, walking among them, heart sinking with each step. Oh, no. They reached for a woman with arms shorter than they should be, and she smiled at him. Thank you, she said, her voice soft, sincere, without fear. Obatala recoiled. Why do you thank me? I failed you. But she only smiled wider, touched his face with her small, imperfect hand, and whispered, You gave me life. Obatala stumbled back. He looked again, this time not with the eyes of a god, but with the eyes of a creator who had felt something. He saw not mistakes, but differences, not deformities, but variations. Some of the humans danced even with uneven legs. Some sang with voices that trembled. Others laughed together, huddling in warmth, their spirits brighter than the sun above. And then, for the first time, Obatala wept, not from pride, not from shame alone, but from the staggering realization that imperfection had birthed a deeper kind of beauty, one he had not planned, one he had not understood until now. What have I done? He whispered into the wind. And then, what have I created? No voice answered. But the imperfect children did not wait for an answer. They began to live, to move, to explore, to be. And in that, Obatala saw something profound. They were flawed and still worthy, broken and still divine, created in error but filled with purpose. He fell to his knees in the red earth, clay-stained and humbled, watching his children walk toward the horizon. They did not look back, but one of them turned just before the trees swallowed her silhouette. She raised her hand, waved to the god who had made her crooked, and loved him anyway. Obatala watched until they disappeared. Then he stood. There was only one thing left to do. The skies darkened with tension as Obatala ascended from the earth, his steps heavy, heart heavier still. The weight of his failure pressed against his chest like a mountain. The sacred halls of the heavens, usually radiant and serene, now seemed cold, distant, almost hostile. Before the divine court of Orishas he stood, tall but trembling, his hands still stained with the clay of his imperfect children. Eyes, sharp and curious, turned toward him. Whispers rippled through the celestial assembly. The jealous Orisha, the one who had planted the gourd of palm wine, watched with a sly, unreadable smile. Obatala's voice broke the silence, low but steady. A great Olajumare, lords and ladies of the divine court, I come with a confession. He took a deep breath, the air thick with anticipation. I was charged with creating humanity from the sacred clay. I labored with reverence, but I faltered. I drank from a gourd, a gift laced with temptation. And in that weakness, I shaped imperfect forms, bent limbs, shaken hands, faces not as I intended. Murmurs filled the court. Some gasps, some skeptical glances. Obatala lowered his gaze ashamed. I feared your wrath. I expected punishment, exile, or worse. But I come seeking mercy and guidance. A heavy silence fell. Then, from the highest throne, a voice rang clear, calm, unwavering. Obatala. The court fell still. Olajumare's gaze softened as he continued. Your failure is unlike any other, for in your error you have revealed a truth. That creation is not about perfection. It is about compassion. Obatala looked up, disbelief warring with hope. You will not be punished, Olajumare declared. Instead, you will protect those you made. Your special ones, the imperfect, are under your care, your guardianship. They carry the spark of divinity in their uniqueness. The court stirred. Some nodded in respect, others whispered doubts. Obatala's shoulders lifted slightly, the burden easing. Then the jealous Orisha stood, voice dripping with venom. Is this mercy or folly? Have we not been made fools by this weakness? Olajumare's gaze turned icy. You will speak no more against Obatala's charge. His compassion is a strength you cannot understand. The court bowed in unison. Obatala, humbled and honored, bowed deeply. As he turned to leave, his eyes caught those of his jealous rival, a silent vow exchanged between them. The battle was far from over, but for now, Obatala carried the blessing of mercy and the burden of protection. The glow of victory in the divine court still lingered in the heavens, but Obatala's heart was heavy with more than relief. He knew the path ahead would be harder than the one behind. Alone in his sacred chamber, the god of purity stared into a small clay bowl, once filled with palm wine, now empty. His hands trembled, memories of the forbidden drink swirling like a storm inside him. A never again, he whispered to the silent stars. Obatala raised his voice, echoing through the celestial halls, a vow as solemn as the first breath of creation. By the clay of the earth, by the breath of Olajumare, I swear, I will never taste the poison of palm wine again. This was more than a promise. It was a binding oath, a sacred pledge to protect his imperfect children without falter or weakness. Word of Obatala's vow rippled quickly among the Orishas, and not all voices praised it. The jealous Orisha, whose name now echoed like a shadow in the heavens, smirked with cold satisfaction. faction. Gathering allies in whispered corners, the rival sowed seeds of doubt and envy. "The great Obatala's strength is a lie," they murmured. "His vow is a mask for his shame." But Obatala, feeling the weight of his new purpose, ignored the poison of their words. Instead, he descended once more to earth, moving among the clayborn, those he had shaped imperfectly, those he had vowed to protect. He healed wounds, soothed fears, and offered solace to the rejected and forgotten. The children of clay saw him not as a god distant and flawless, but as a father who stumbled and rose, a protector who embraced imperfection as sacred. Yet the jealous Orisha's plots deepened, weaving darkness that would soon threaten all Obatala held dear. The battle was no longer only of creation and compassion, but of power, pride, and the price of mercy. To the divine court, once a place of harmony, now buzzed with tension and murmurs that cut sharper than any sword. Flaw. The jealous Orisha prowled the marble halls like a shadow, weaving a web of whispered accusations against Obatala. He tainted creation itself. The jealous one hissed in secret gatherings. His clayborn are not blessings. They are curses. Slowly, doubt crept into the hearts of the gods. How could a god of order and purity fall to weakness? How could his creations, bent, scarred, and different, be anything but a sign of failure? The court's atmosphere thickened with suspicion. Allies began to question Obatala's worthiness, some even calling for his removal as protector. But in the mortal world below, a miracle unfolded. A clayborn, one of those who bore the marks of Obatala's flawed hands, rose in humble defiance. The villagers called her Yanfi, a beloved. Yanf healed the sick with a touch, spoke words that mended broken hearts, and carried the light of hope into places long forgotten. The gods watched, their judgment faltering. The jealous Orisha's whispers faltered, drowned by the undeniable truth. Imperfection could hold power. Brokenness could birth strength. Mercy could become the greatest form of justice. The divine court fell silent, torn between envy and awe. And Obatala? He stood firm, his vow now bolstered by the living proof of his compassion. Yet, even as light pierced the darkness, the jealous Orisha retreated to plot anew, knowing that the trial was far from over. The grand hall of the divine court was transformed into an arena of judgment. The air was heavy with expectation as gods from every corner of the heavens gathered to witness the trial of Obatala, the god who dared to create imperfection. The jealous Orisha rose, eyes burning with accusation. Obatala defiled the sacred task. His drunken hands twisted creation itself. How can we trust a god who mocks divine order, the clayborn? Those imperfect humans shaped by Obatala's faltering hands were called forth as witnesses. One by one, they stepped into the celestial spotlight. A strong woman with a crooked spine told of her courage in battle, defending her village from enemies with fierce determination. A man missing a hand spoke of his wisdom, crafting tools and teaching others with unmatched skill. A child born blind shared stories of visions seen not with eyes, but with the soul. Their testimonies peeled back the layers of prejudice. Imperfection was not a flaw, but a testament to resilience, adaptability, and divine uniqueness. Even some gods began to shift, their rigid beliefs challenged by these living proofs of creation's unpredictable beauty. When the final witness spoke, silence fell, though Obatala himself stepped forward, not to defend, but to embrace. "These are my children," he said, voice steady and filled with quiet pride. "Their shapes, their scars, their gifts, all born from the same hand. I created them not by mistake, but with love." The court was torn. The jealous Orisha seethed, sensing the tide turning. Yet the gods could no longer deny a fundamental truth. Creation was not about perfection, but about heart. The murmurs of the divine court hushed as Eulajumer, the supreme god, took his place upon the celestial throne. All eyes, mortal and immortal, were fixed on him, the ultimate arbiter of fate and creation. The tension was palpable. Would the god of all punish Obatala for his faltering hands? Would he condemn the Claiborne to shame and exile? Olajumere's voice echoed through the hall, calm yet thunderous. A creation is never a path without risk. Even gods stumble. He turned his gaze from the gods to the Claiborne below. You were formed by hands that trembled with temptation, yet never faltered in love. You carry not just clay, but the essence of mercy itself. The court leaned in, breath held tight. Olajumere continued, eyes shining with ancient wisdom. Obatala's error is the most divine act of all. For through his compassion, he showed that creation is not about faultless perfection. It is about acceptance, resilience, and the courage to love what others might reject. A ripple of astonishment passed through the divine assembly. The jealous Orisha's face twisted with fury and disbelief. Olajumere raised a hand, silencing all. From this day forward, Obatala shall be known not only as creator, but as the god of mercy, protector of the imperfect, champion of those born different. The pronouncement was final. The jealous Orisha's accusations crumbled like dust in the wind. The court erupted, some in joyous celebration, others in stunned reverence. Obatala bowed humbly, tears of relief and gratitude streaming down his face. The supreme god's judgment had not only saved Obatala, but redefined what it meant to be divine. Obatala returned to earth, not as the flawless creator once imagined, but as a guardian shaped by humility and compassion. His footsteps stirred the dust of the land, carrying with them a promise that no soul was forgotten or flawed beyond worth. Villages built shrines in his honor, not for a god of perfection, but for one who embraced imperfection as sacred. The Claiborne, those humans once scorned for their differences, found hope and pride in his protection. Their deformities, disabilities, and scars became marks of divine favor rather than curses. The skies themselves seemed to sing with new understanding. Imperfection was a path to true beauty, resilience, and humanity. But far away, in the shadows of the divine realm, the jealous Orisha's power waned. Cast into obscurity, he seethed, not because he was defeated, but because he had underestimated the strength born from mercy. Obatala's legend spread beyond gods and mortals alike. A god who made a mistake, yet turned it into salvation. In this world of fragile, beautiful clay, Obatala's greatest creation was not the humans themselves, but the grace to accept them as they are. Final twist. The God who faltered became the God who healed. And in that transformation lies the true power of creation, a power born not from perfection, but from love.